All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Here's Johnny.
Vanity. Definitely my favorite sin.
I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
The power of Christ compels you.
This is my boomstick.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Hello, horror heads, and welcome to Shiver, a horror movie podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Daniel DeBona.
And I'm David Ulloa.
And we are joined this week by, I believe, third time on the show, Mr. Ralph Diaz Wagner. Ralph, how are you, man?
Good. I'm very excited about today.
Yeah, so the way that I understand it is Dave and I didn't plan on having a guest, and then when you heard we were doing this one, you just were like, I gotta be there.
Yes.
And so we are continuing our Summer Slasher celebration this week, where we are going to go to the other side of the 80s slasher coin. We started with The Prowler last week. The Prowler is a deep, good movie. And this week we're going to go to the other side, and we're going to talk Slumber Party Massacre from 1982. This movie got a little bit of everything, right? It touches a lot of those things that make a slasher a slasher. It also touches a lot of those things that chase people away from the genre. Tell us what you think about the movie overall. I'm going to start with you, Ralph.
Oh, you sure?
Yeah, go for it, man.
Hot.
Okay, we're going to both barrels. Let's go.
Oh, man. I think, like I said, I think my opinion is greatly affected by seeing The Prowler. I started listening to the podcast, and I stopped and jumped on Tubi to watch Prowler, then went back to the podcast and listened to it. And I guess I just went down the rabbit hole. And when David said, "Hey, we're gonna do Slumber Party Massacre," I was like, "Oh, I'm in." And then I was just so disappointed. I'm really disappointed in this movie. I just expected it's such a great premise. It's babes sleeping over, and they're gonna get like drilled. You know, I mean, come on, how do you mess this up? And somehow they did. I was even very excited when I found out it was written by a woman and directed by a woman. I'm like, this is gonna be awesome, and it was not. I
can't help but think that some of the blame might lie on you for expecting a lot of a movie named Slumber Party Massacre.
Yeah, my wife says I'm an eternal optimist. I think that's what happened. I went in like just really like, yay, Christmas, and it was like, no, Arbor Day.
All right, Dave, what about you, man?
Listen, man, I love this movie. I'm just gonna put it out there right now. I do think that Ralph was greatly affected by The Prowler, because why wouldn't he be? The Prowler is a fantastic movie, and by the way, that is my hope of this podcast, is that someone listens to an episode and says, man, what is this? I've got no idea what this is about, but it sounds fantastic. And then they turn off the podcast, watch the movie, either love it or hate it, and then come back and argue to their listening device with us, whether they're watching it on YouTube or they're listening on their phone, whatever it might be. I want that sort of Mystery Science Theater 3000 effect, where like you're watching along with us assholes, right? So I love that happened and that it motivated you to watch Slumber Party Massacre, but this is not The Prowler. Not at all. But I love them both. I'm going to say that. I love them both. I love the fact that this movie does not take itself seriously. I love the fact that this movie has an identity crisis. And a lot of that comes down to the fact that it was written for one purpose and then produced for another purpose and edited for a different purpose. So what you have is this sort of like hodgepodge that like shouldn't work, and I guess artistically doesn't.
Right.
Objectively, it doesn't work. Subjectively, however, with the right sort of inebriation, this is the kind of movie that you can love, absolutely love. It's the kind of movie that I love to put on when I've got nothing to watch. It's one of those movies because it is mindless unless you start thinking about it. And I think that there's actually a lot, and this goes back to the way it was written. There's a lot in this movie that I think is actually very meaningful. It's a slasher that can actually be torn apart, and you can use critical and literary analysis on this thing to get really deep with it. And I love that about this, that it can be multifaceted, that it can be a stupid slasher, but it can be a smart slasher.
I am so excited to hear you say that you have analytical views of this movie, because we're gonna get like the boiled down essence of what our characters are on this show, which is you analyzing and me going, ooh, nipples, right? I love this movie. So funny story, I chose this movie because I remembered liking it when I was younger. So I fired this thing up last night and I'm watching it and I'm sitting around. I'm like, going, wait a minute. Like, I thought, where's the guitar? Like, shouldn't the drill be attached to the guitar? So I'm watching and all of this is brand new to me. And it turns out when I was a child, well, not a child, I'm a teenager, I saw Slumber Party Massacre 2. So this was actually my first watching of Slumber Party Massacre.
This is, by the way, the second time this happens. You thought you had seen Evil Dead and had actually seen
it happened with Evil Dead.
Too.
Yeah. It to my defense, that one was a drunken mistake. This was just a time mistake. But that being said, man, I enjoyed the shit out of this movie. There is a 14-year-old horror fan in me that was just screaming with joy through this entire movie. What's amazing about this is as we continue Summer Slasher Celebration and we start to break down kind of how and when these things happened. 82, we get The Prowler, which is a fantastic continuation of the slasher genre, kicked off with Halloween and Town That Dreaded Sundown and Texas Chainsaw and stuff like that. Halloween was what, 78? So, yeah. So we're going forward in it now, and there's a really interesting idea here that is Slumber Party Massacre an attempt at furthering the genre, or is it an attempt at setting it back almost on purpose and making it something that's more accessible? Because Slumber Party Massacre is not scary. There are very few scary moments in this, if any. But there are some funny moments. There are some naked moments. There are some gory moments. And it becomes a thing where it's easy to look at Slumber Party Massacre and go, God, this tore down so much work that all of these people put into creating the slasher genre, making it something viable and palatable for Hollywood. And this movie just tears all that work down, just hits it at the base and destroys it. But there's also an argument here for the fact that this is the type of movie that put the slasher genre to where it is, which is date night shit. This is the type of thing where the slasher movie becomes something that you put on at a party, because you could watch this movie on mute and get the exact same effect. You don't need to hear a single thing a person says in Slumber Party Massacre for this to work perfectly. This is the type of movie that plays on a big screen while you're having a beer and waiting for your number to be called to go into the haunted house at Halloween. This is that type of movie. And so there's absolutely something to be said about the fact that artistically, this may have set the slasher genre back and created this subsect of slasher where they explored that grindhouse element of it more. But there is also something to be said about the fact that this is normie horror, which isn't a bad thing, right? It's real easy to watch as much of this as we do and to get disillusioned at what's good and what's not and what we expect of things. And sometimes this is one of those ones where it's fun to be like, this is approachable by anyone. This is something that can be enjoyable to a party, to you watching by yourself. This type of movie is just something that broadens the approach of the slasher. and it makes it something that this is when you start to go, okay, so it's okay to laugh about these things. You know, if you were having a conversation in 82 about Texas Chainsaw Massacre and that movie was hysterical to you, you probably got put on a list somewhere, or your parents called to have somebody come talk to you. But this movie made it okay to laugh. Now, I'm not saying it blazed that path, but when you're looking at this coming out in the same year as The Prowler, you start to see that this is early onset of the slasher being a party movie, it being something fun. And I've got no problems with that. You know, like I said to you, Ralph, I mean, sure, you came right off The Prowler. We've all made that mistake, right? You find something that you find something really good and it interests you in a new genre, and then you stumble on something that sucks and it just takes all the wind out of your sails, right? And so I can absolutely see where, 48 hours removed from The Prowler, that this movie was a disappointment to you. But I really think as we get to talking about it here and you start to separate it more from The Prowler, that you're going to realize you enjoyed this movie more than you think you did.
I put it in the same category as like wristwatches. Like, I'm a big wristwatch fan. If the first watch you ever own is a Rolex or a Patek Philippe or something like that, there is zero chance you're ever going to look at a Casio or a Timex and be like, that's a cool fucking watch. But if you started with a Casio or a Timex that maybe moved up to like a Seiko or something like that, and eventually worked your way up to spending the amount of money that guy who bought his first watch and was a Rolex just spent, you can appreciate all of it.
Exactly.
Because it's all a part of the journey. And I think that that's what this is. Is this The Prowler? Absolutely it is not. But you also can't compare it to The Prowler. I don't think. At least not me. But
So, you definitely can.
No. On that we can agree.
I have an Armatron. Wait, there it is. So.
Ralph said, watch me.
I got a watch on, so we're kind of neck and neck there.
Mine's a Garmin.
Yours is a computer.
Yeah, mine's a computer. Mine has GPS in it.
So while we're talking about how you cannot compare here, let's get to the story, right? Now slashers and stories don't always mix. That I think is probably the case here too. So we started with Ralph before, so I'm going to throw it to Daniel first here. But does the story work for you in any way? Like, is this, kind of same thing we talked about with The Prowler? Is this a good story, or is this just enough to get you from kill to kill, or from nude scene to nude scene, or is it even not enough for that?
Yeah. So there's no story here. There's one radio broadcast that said a killer broke free, and it just sets everything into motion. Beyond that, there's no story. There's some attempt at it with like, oh, those girls are jealous of Valerie because Valerie's so hot, but none of it plays out to mean anything.
And by the way, she is. I would be jealous too.
Not wrong.
Wow.
100% not wrong. So there is no story here. Like I said, this movie, you can watch it on mute and get the same effect. That being said, I mean, how much story do you need for a movie called Slumber Party Massacre, right? There's a killer. There's a slumber party. We're good. This is a movie that I didn't expect any story from. This is a movie where when you break it down and you start to look at if you just look at it as like a plot overview, right? I mean, calling what happens in this movie a story is like going to a Walmart and seeing a doodle on the floor and be like, is this art? I mean, I don't, it's a kid was set loose with a Sharpie. Like, I can tell you that definitively. That's what this movie is, right? The story here was it was somebody who wanted to do something fun, was set loose with a Sharpie. And so, but when you look at it plot wise and you remove that word story, the plot moves in a sequential order that makes sense. I mean, people make decisions that are only mildly idiotic. Some of them straight up make sense. I mean, hey, look out now. But to call it a story is a stretch. There's enough connective tissue here to keep it moving forward. You know, we know nothing about the driller killer. None of that has ever played out. We know that Valerie is new to town, but it doesn't end up really mattering. All of these little things that are kind of story elements are all for naught in the end. And so this falls firmly in that category of just enough to get this thing started. Like, there is enough story here to push this car down the hill and then let gravity do its work. And that's all they do. They set up a couple things, then they go, now go along for the ride. And you just strap in. So to call it a story, stretch, connective tissue, some plot stuff that kind of makes sense. Sure.
All right. Ralph?
Believe it or not, I actually think there is enough story.
Hey,
I think that's why it upsets me, because I think all the pieces are in place and then they just don't do enough with them. I think I agree with you. Yeah, it's like, hey, killer's on the loose. Perfect. Bam, coming to town. And I think at the beginning when he attacks the school, okay, makes sense. That phone worker happens to be there. Boom, first one to go. That's good. And then the other girl goes back and he gets her. But then why he focuses on these girls at the house doesn't make sense. But I didn't care about that. I wasn't critical about that part. Like I said, I think there was more than enough story. I like that everything's there. All the pieces are there. And then we can't put the puzzle together. I don't know why. There was enough story. So
I'm going to agree with Ralph here. I think that the script is not one of the issues that this movie has. Execution might be a different story, and I do think that you're right about that, Ralph. I would love to see the original script that Rita Mae Brown wrote, because I feel like there's so much there. This really is feminist horror. It is not by mistake that he uses a drill as his weapon of choice. It is not by mistake that drill is chopped off at the end of the movie.
You're telling me that they did that shot with the drill perfectly hanging between his legs on purpose?
I mean, this is totally about a woman's fear of male sexuality, and I think that is on display all over and in many different characters, not just the driller killer. Because for me, I think one of the most interesting story arcs here is with the neighbor, Mr. Contat.
Yes,
and we'll talk about it more when we get to characters. But why the fuck was he in that house in the first place?
Fair.
And this is the 80s, right? You trusted your neighbors. So he was just trusted. And this is a fairly young man who's being entrusted the care of like she's basically a woman. Trish is a woman, you know, and her parents are just trusting him. And he goes into the house and then he gives her that, the classic, like, don't tell your parents bit, like that's fucking creepy.
Yeah.
All right. And it's the kind of thing that we as men don't typically have to worry about this thing. But a girl does, a woman does, because that guy who seems perfectly harmless, that guy who seems perfectly helpful, could very well be a creeper.
That guy who was a little too excited about a group of high school girls getting high and drunk next door to him while he hung out hunting snails.
Yeah, you chose tonight to go hunt snails?
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Mr. Contat. So there's I think there's a lot here. There's a lot here, and like even the fact that these girls can't have a night to themselves because their boyfriends push themselves on them is part of the feminist horror that's going on here. Why can't I have a girls' night? Like, you go out with your friends. I just want to have like an old school night to myself, right? Diane is forced by her boyfriend to like ask that he come to the party. The boys come uninvited to the house and then spy on them. And not only did they come uninvited and spy on them, but then they make fun of them for the stuff that they're doing in the privacy of their own homes.
Very
for
true.
And it was very innocent, right? We are as voyeuristic as those boys were, right? We're watching them get undressed.
Yeah.
And that shot was totally because this is a Roger Corman picture, right? And
the window's open.
Yeah, so why? Because that's the way Corman movies are made. You need tits, you need ass, you need you need murder. You got tits, ass, and murder. You got a Roger Corman picture, and that's what happens here. Is you've got that because you kind of need it to sell, right? But also, I think it was really brilliant of the director here, Amy
Holden Jones.
Amy Holden Jones. Thank you to kind of use that as a way to make us feel just as uncomfortable in that situation. If you stop and you think about that scene, it's really uncomfortable, right? And it's not filmed in a sexy way. There's no soft focus that's put on them. There's no music that's played in the background. It's just girls being girls.
Yeah.
And these are adult actresses. We know this, but they're playing teenage characters in high school. The shower scene at the beginning of the movie is exactly the same thing. Is it gratuitous? Yes.
Look, this movie redefined gratuitous as there's literally nothing but panning the camera down to stare at this chick's butt.
And you know what? It's an uncomfortably long shot, I think.
It
like I was hoping she would fart so that it would break some of the tension as she broke wind, because
my God.
And maybe the first time I saw this is as a teenager, because this is one that I rented back in the day. I maybe when I saw this as a teenager, I was too stupid and horny to understand what was, I think, maybe being attempted here by Jones. But I really do think that there's some sort of commentary here in the story about how a girl can't just be a girl because she is constantly sexualized and constantly sexually assaulted in many different ways. And I love the fact that the way this movie ends is by decocking.
Yeah. I mean, and to strengthen your point, I mean, Amy Holden Jones went on to do Mystic Pizza, Indecent Proposal. Like, this is a woman who cemented her legacy in doing movies that sell that same type of story, right? That's the same type of stuff that you're wading into whenever you watch any of those other movies that she's done. And so, I mean, yeah, when you say it that way, sure. Like there are story elements here that I missed on.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the studio stuff that's happening here, right? Because again, it is Roger Corman, so he wants to make a movie that's going to excite the audience. He wants to make a movie that's going to get people back in the movie theater for the next showing, right? And so you do need the nudity, and so you do need to present this as a stock slasher, because that's what's selling,
which works geniusly, apparently, because at 220K to make, this thing made $3 million at the box office.
Yeah. Nice.
So, I mean, you're talking that's 5, 10, 15 times like its budget, like that it turned out. That's incredible. Like, those are stupid numbers.
Mm-hmm.
He was good at that. At one point, when he wrote his book, King of the B Movies, whatever he had made, I think he had produced 211 movies, 200 and something movies, and I think only 3 had not made money.
Wow,
that's insane.
But he was wild. I mean, he would even buy Russian sci-fi and just redub it and shoot some scenes and have semi-nude girls on the beach, and somehow it worked. And I was like, what?
And I do tend to like Corman movies.
Yeah,
I love the low budget aspect of them. But that's particularly why I don't compare them to, like for example, I love St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
That's it's
good. It's good.
It's great. I think it's great for what it is, but you cannot compare that to something like The Untouchables.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, fair.
It's a totally different kind of movie.
Big Bad Mama 2 is good. I like that one.
So we as we venture forward from the story here, one thing that we can't get away from, that we've even started into here as we've started to talk about the story, is the fact that there's a full-bodied cast here, right? There's a lot.
I like what you did there.
Thank you. There's a lot of people to discuss. There's some different things that are hit by different people. So good or bad, one reason or another. I mean, who or what stands out about this cast of characters for you, Dave?
Okay, so I am gonna go into a character I started to go into earlier, which is Mr. Contant. Mr. Contant to me is one of the most interesting characters here because he's presented as a perfectly normal man.
Fair.
There's really nothing that is out of the ordinary about him. He dresses like a perfectly average 80s man in his maybe mid to late 20s, maybe early 30s, right?
Maybe.
He seems polite, and yet there's enough creepiness about him to wonder how often does he peek into Trisha's window.
Yes.
And if her friends hadn't come home, what might he have done with Trish? What has he done with Trish in the past?
Yeah, because he claims that he didn't think she was home, but he was upstairs where you would assume the bedrooms are. So what was your end game in coming when you didn't think she was home?
How many of her panties did you sneak into your giant cargo pants, sir?
Correct.
That's a lot of panties that you can fit in those cargo pockets.
Yeah, that man was at least up there sniffing them. Like
at the very least.
Very least.
And he wasn't looking at the clean ones either.
Nope. No, he was going through the hamper.
I was gonna say, he's in the hamper for sure.
He's definitely in the hamper. So I think that he's one of the more interesting characters here because you don't know exactly how to read him. Is it perfectly plausible that he was looking for snails that are chewing up his garden? Yeah. And
Sure.
Do they come out at night? Yeah, they dry up in the sun, so they do come out at night. That's logical. Do I suspect that maybe there's something going on there? And that's the beautiful thing about this movie, I think, is that we know that Russ Thorne is out there. We know that Russ Thorne is a bad guy, and yet those scenes with Mr. Contant are still somewhat tense.
Yes.
That is purposeful to make us try to understand what it's like to be a teenage girl with a perfectly normal guy. In the face of all this danger, there's still danger lurking there. I think that his character, at least for me, gives such an amazing depth to the movie. If you want to think about it, because if you don't want to think about it, you don't have to. And it still works on that basic dumb level of he's just the neighbor. To me, I love that character. I thought he was great. Yeah, I'll leave it at that because there's three of us today. So I don't want to, monopolize characters.
All right, Ralph, who do you got? Good or bad?
He's the first puzzle piece that I think was underutilized. I wanted him more creepy. I wanted him to actually hit on one of the kids and either fail or just go full dirtbag. Well, I think my problem with a lot of the movie is just go balls to the wall, man. Why are you PGing it? I wanted him to be smoke a joint with the kids, try to just be handsy, and they'd be creepy, whatever, and then he gets killed, But
okay,
I don't know.
Okay.
That's what I thought. I wanted to like him more. I really like the two. Something I said briefly with Dave was there's almost two leads here. Valerie and Trish are kind of dual leads.
Yeah,
I like that, and especially, I don't know how to progress in it, but Trish is a badass, dude. Wow, she really comes towards the end. So I don't want to jump the gun there, but I like the women, and I like kind of jumping back to story, but it's about these characters when they're together. That no need for them to get naked and get into their jammies, but at least it's realistic. Like their conversations, they're listening in on. I remember listening in on other conversations, and call this guy and see what he says. Whatever, and then and also, it's not. They didn't do something stupid like a pillow fight. It's like, God, come on.
They were talking about baseball.
Yeah, lots of
really
baseball.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really like about this is that the characters seemed real.
Yes. Because they were sporty chicks. They obviously were really into basketball. So
yeah.
I like all the girl characters. The two dudes that I call bitch 1 and bitch 2, I don't know their name. God, they're useless. Oh my God.
They are.
They really are.
Yeah,
Which,
they
I know they serve the purpose of being like maybe damsels in distress. But again, then it's like, I don't know. I just didn't like any of them. I didn't like them at all, those two.
Yeah, no, those that I didn't like the one boyfriend with the car, right? Like that dude was obviously just a douchebag.
Yeah.
Your bitch 1 and bitch 2, as you have as so lovingly coined them. I didn't dislike those guys because yes, okay. 2023, right? You look at it now and it's like, okay, that's not an okay thing to do. That's peeping. Even in the 80s, it was frowned upon, but it wasn't viewed as like this illegal thing. So
they would have gotten their ears pulled and told,
correct.
To run back home.
So looking at it through the lens of that, right? I can see where these seem to just be two nerdy guys that talk a big game, but it's really just always the two of them. Right, because you see him kind of try to flirt with the telephone girl, and he's bad at it. And so his buddy, busts his balls about it. But when you first see him, they're just talking all this shit, right? And it's I'm gonna get with this girl, and that girl deserves my attention, and all of this, and it's it was realistic shenanigans, right? It was I didn't dislike those guys because they were kind of the levity in this. Like you're looking at these girls and yes, Valerie a bombshell, but also there's not a single one of them where you're not like, okay, yeah, that girl is very attractive. Fine. Look, I the people who work on telephone lines and who fix my internet are spectacular people. In my experience, never met an attractive woman doing it, right? Like, that's not to say there are not. I've just never met one. But so they go to the lengths of this movie where they're like, yeah, this is a girls' basketball team, and they're all normal heights and very attractive. And it's like, okay. And it's like, here's their coach. She's 2 years older than them and also very attractive. And it's like, okay, yeah, sure. And then it's like, and
I also like the suggestion that she's a lesbian.
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
Very subtle,
where
very
it was very subtle and it wasn't like, very, very in your face, so I appreciated that, they kind of acknowledged the, okay, female PE coach, more than likely a lesbian, but
she's a confirmed bachelor.
Yeah. But she's still young. Maybe that was it. But I love it. I want her, and we should have gotten a scene with her and the friend who was fixing the house. That would have been.
Don't get me started.
There we go. But so the two nerdy guys, like I said, there was an element of innocence to them that was kind of refreshing. So I did like them. One of my biggest things about this movie, and it's not a flaw or anything, it's just something that's hilarious. If you take out Trish's parents, every character in this movie seems to be the same age. Like there's there was not a lot of effort put into like separating Valerie from Courtney as big sister and little sister, except for the fact that Courtney's attitude was very obviously one of like a 13, 14-year-old kid, which was disorienting to say the least. Like you're looking at her and this is obviously an adult actress. And then she gets on the phone after looking at a playground. And she's like, ew, a boy stuck his tongue in my mouth. And I was like, wait, how old are you? Because a second ago, you were looking at Sylvester Stallone's dong and you were all about it. And now it's so gross to you that you were kissing a boy and he stuck his tongue in your mouth. I just need some consistency out of you, Courtney. That's all I'm looking for.
I will say to that point, to kind of play devil's advocate, go back to your adolescence and think about how many times you wanted to, grab a Playboy. Like I remember the Sable
Oh, the Sable
edition.
Playboy.
The Sable Playboy.
Yeah.
That was a definitive moment for me.
That was a keystone moment in
Yeah.
in quite a few young men's lives.
I definitely did not have that under my mattress. And I definitely didn't find it weird the first time I Frenched someone.
Okay, fair,
And
right?
it was around. It was right around that time.
Okay, so I'll give you that.
Yeah.
So like I said, but when it came to the characters, I really loved, like you touched on, the fact that they weren't just talking about boys and having a pillow fight and stuff like that. Yeah, it's like, hey, we're all athletes. We love baseball. And like analytic breakdown, like trying to remember play by play how the game was won. Like that's the type of stuff that I do when I hang out with my friends now, and I'll be 40 in a week, right? So the idea that a bunch of teenage girls would do that when they're athletes, that makes sense for what they would do when they were hanging out. That's not some male fantasy of what happens at a slumber party. You know, like that. There was an episode of Friends one time where like Chandler says something about it. The girls having a pillow fight. Monica's like, do you really think that's what happens when girls have sleepovers? He's like, yeah, you know, like because that's just the fantasy way. It was cool that, yeah, sure, they stripped down in front of each other, but that moment wasn't over sexualized. And so you did just get where it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't go dong out in front of my friends, but also like if I just need to change my shorts or something, like I'm not going to be like, hey,
it's going to happen.
Everybody close your eyes, you know? So that type of stuff made their relationships feel realistic. And that was very cool. And like I said, none of these were unattractive women.
No,
the girl in the basketball jersey, aces.
Oh yeah.
Right? See-through 90, aces. Like it was an attractive group of friends that just wanted to hang out and have a girls' night that just kept getting ruined by dudes. And so when I look at the characters, there's not really, you know, yeah, Valerie stands out as being a badass, and Trish ends up showing up kind of doing the same thing. And that stuff is great because that's what they need to set them apart, but not for the wrong reasons. They needed to be set apart because we were given a group of girls who were very realistic in their relationships with each other, in their relationship kind of with their parents, you know, like, no, I don't know if I can go. I got to study. My parents are going to kill me. That type of stuff. That's all standard fare. But when it plays out and it all fits that mold, that's an impressive feat in a movie that, yeah, it's called Slumber Party Massacre. Like we were hoping to see nipples and blood. We got that in spades, but we got it in a way that wasn't. It wasn't a male fantasy of how this would go down and how it would be sexy. Was it sexy? Not the killing, but at times the movie was. It was understated sexy, which was cool.
I do want to circle back to Bitch 1 and Bitch 2.
For the record, Bitch 2 is the little blonde guy. Is the smaller one of the two.
Oh, you know, I was imagining him as Bitch 1. I love the role reversal of this movie. I think it's another way that Rita Mae Brown was working feminism into here, where so often we see in movies, not necessarily in horror movies, but in movies in general, I think more often than not in action movies and dramas, we see men take on this like incredibly heroic role. And you know, at this time, you know, you would have had your Schwarzeneggers and your Stallones and your Norrises doing these incredible things and saving these damsels in distress. And to me, it's such a great commentary on, like, that's what I think most guys would actually be like. in a situation like this, where in movie world, it's the girl who doesn't know what to do, right? And I love the fact that, oh no, now I'm thinking about part 2. Never mind. I was gonna say one of the guys says, no, let's leave them behind. But actually, no, that does happen in this one as well.
Yeah, because they tried to do the heroic thing.
Yeah, and then like the ultimate bitch move is who you're calling bitch 1. He says, well, maybe we should split up, because even if one of us dies, the other one will be able to outrun him.
Right.
And I'm like, man, these girls here are not thinking that way. They're thinking about survival, not how can I get away? I love that those two characters are foils for like the strength that you see in these female characters here. I absolutely love it. And then just also as a character moment, I absolutely love the character of Kim, who's played by Deborah DeLiso, when she is shoved into the refrigerator.
Oh my God.
That refrigerator gag gets me every single time.
Dude, that refrigerator gag was genius. The way they kept opening and closing the door, it just kept kind of sliding in and sliding out and sliding in and sliding out. That
is comedic gold.
Oh, 100%. Like that's an Abbott and Costello sketch. Like that was perfect.
It really is. And she talks about that in some of the special features on the I think it was Shout Factory that put this one out.
Yeah, both
they put out a double feature one. And she talks about how they did that. Like they basically just pulled all of the shelving out of the refrigerator and shoved her in there. And they said, okay, like the little light fixture that holds the light bulb, just hang on to that in a way where it doesn't look like you're hanging on to it. That was it. That's all they told her.
Was there a back to it or no? Was the back open to the fridge?
No, there was a back. She was
really?
in the refrigerator.
She was actually just shoved in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
Green Lantern style.
It's a Green Lantern style. Indiana Jones style.
Yeah.
I love that gag, and I think that it's such a funny moment. And I think that it's hard for me to say that this character or that character is better than the other, but I think that there are some really great character moments here, particularly with the comedy. I think the comedy's on point here.
Well, and just two things. One, you're talking about just characters, like even some of the smaller characters. The first girl, the one who gets killed in the gym, the one after the phone,
Linda.
Linda. She has a moment where, like, a series of moments that are very anti, like, damsel in distress in a slasher movie. She gets away. Very quietly gets into the room, hides under the desk, knowing that he can see it from the other thing, locks the door, quietly grabs the towel, and then has the presence of mind to go, oh man, I'm about to start bleeding under this door. I need to do something about that. Yeah. Ultimately, it doesn't work out for her. But she had the presence of mind to do that, which is great, right? Yeah. Because it's always some dumb girl running up the stairs when she should be running out the door. But she didn't have that moment. She had that moment where her survival instincts were so fucking good. She was very, very close to making it out alive. And that's refreshing, especially, for a woman that early in a slasher flick. And then bitch 1 and bitch 2, you were talking about them being the kind of the antithesis of what was being portrayed as manly at the time. So this is 82. Conan the Barbarian's like 82, 83, right?
82.
So I mean, so you're talking, this is coming out like the same summer as like the manliest dude ever committed to film is also being pushed into the same set of theaters. And this is how they chose to present boys in this movie. So there's a big leap there in understanding what a male role can be.
I absolutely agree with that. And by the way, great use of one of my favorite lines from Scream. So thank you. And there's only one character we didn't really mention. We mentioned almost all of them, good, bad, and different. And that's our actual slasher here. The driller killer, Russ Thorne. right? So, Ralph, you had some rather strong words about our driller killer.
I
What do
really
you think
don't
about
like him. Yeah, I
Okay.
really don't like him. I understand they had to they revealed him at the beginning, so there's no mystery to it.
Mhm.
But he doesn't do anything for me. He's not scary. And then again, like I said, if he's gonna be creepy, dude, just like hang out with your cock out, dude. Just go crazy and be really creepy. And he's just, I don't know, he's just kind of weird, kind of like campy, but not in a good way. I don't know. I want him more. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I really didn't like him. He wasn't a threat. I don't know. I didn't like this guy, especially again. But and I don't want to bring up the other movie, but it's after the Prowler. I mean, this guy's just so stupid. I wish the Prowler guy would have freaking bayoneted this fucker. You know.
I'd love to see that crossover.
Yeah. So I mean, when I look at the driller killer, and so when I look at the last couple of slashers that I've done on this show, so last week we did the Prowler, and before that I had the Phantom in the Town That Dreaded Sundown, and does the driller killer stand up? No, I mean he doesn't. But at the same time, I feel like there was no attempt to try to make me care that much about him or to develop him as that much of a character. When he finally does get some spoken lines, they're just so fucking absurdly creepy that now I don't want to know anything about him. Right? Like all I know about the driller killer now is that this man, like his bad relationships with women go far beyond the fact that he apparently just wants to kill them all. Like there's something very deep seated in the way that he's doing this. But I do kind of appreciate the fact that now I just get to fill in those blanks. I don't need a story about him being molested or having some terrible childhood or a mommy dearest that treated him poorly and now he doesn't know how to love. Like, sure, I can fill in all those blanks, and I will.
Or a Dear John letter.
Yeah, exactly. Or a Dear John letter. I can continue to fill in those blanks, and I probably will. And each time it's going to get more and more fun. That this is the type of thing where, now when I'm telling people about this movie, I'm like, and there's this guy, and I don't know, probably his aunt, went down on him when he was a kid, and now he doesn't, and I can just build that own headcanon. Nobody gives a shit because it's Slumber Party Massacre from '82. And, I kind of appreciate that. I do, man. The guy, the actual actor, Michael Vieira, he had that crazy face. Mm-hmm. He just did the wild eyes all the time. I see, and here's where I disagree with you, Rob. I do think that he was campy in the right way. Just the kind of just barely stalking in the bushes right off the porch there, where it's like, dude, we can see you, but okay, like that is the type of camp that I was looking for from him. Like I mentioned earlier, you get that shot where the girl falls down and she's crying, and there's that shot from behind where the drill just perfectly falls down between his legs, and it's like, yep, okay, I get it, right?
You're gonna get drilled.
Yeah, gonna get drilled, right? All very intentional. I mean, the man, like I said, obviously has some deep-seated issues, but it was all presented in a fun camp package. No, this guy's, I'm not gonna put this guy up in the pantheon of people that I'm gonna, have in the hall of slashers. Right. But there's going to be a fun little caveat at the end, right? Where there's just like a room with a big mural. And sure, the driller killer makes the mural, right? He doesn't get a bust in Canton, but he makes the mural of just slashers that have happened. Because one, driller killer, iconic name, easy to remember, right? Never even say it in the movie, but everybody who's seen it knows he's the driller killer, so, and two, he got the fucking job done, man. 11 bodies.
Yep.
This man stacked up in one night.
Body count.
Yeah, dude, 12 hours. You got, give or take. So you're going from school is over when he gets the phone girl, when he gets the lady working on the phone lines, to sun's not up yet when he gets killed by the pool. So we got a 12-hour window. This dude's dropping him at almost one every 60 minutes.
Yeah.
That's an impressive body count for a movie slasher. Also, fantastic sense of humor, because I take it back. He did have one spoken line before his creepy ones at the end. When the pizza dude's at the door and they go, "What's the damage?" 6 so far.
Yeah,
right?
that was great. That was a great line.
Which was amazing because whenever I watch slashers, I keep up with body count, and he goes 6 so far, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, I pause it, and I'm like going back through.
I was like, wait, did I miss one?
Yeah, and I'm like going back there. I'm like, I got 5, and then I'm like, maybe it's a mistake. And then they open the door, and the pizza guy falls in. I was like,
there's your 6.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it was just, little sense of humor, a lot of deep-seated psychosis, serious issues with women, and he's efficient, man. I'll give him that. The dude's efficient. Like he's not wasting time. This is a quantity over quality slasher. He's not taking faces off or making you eat dinner with this creepy family. He's not doing any of that fun stuff that the guys that we love so much do. He's just like, I could go back to jail at any moment. Got to make every minute count. This is the Driller Killer. It was a YOLO killer in 1982. That's what this guy was. He knew life was short. He'd been to jail. And at any moment, it could be all over again. He's got to squeeze every bit of juice out of this world that he can.
I'm going to disagree with Ralph again here. I think that he understood the assignment.
Yeah, there we go.
I think he knew that this was not Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That he didn't have to do what Gunnar Hansen did in trying to create this character that needed to be analyzed and overanalyzed. And like, why does he wear this face mask in this scene? And why does he wear this face mask in this other scene?
Man, I never noticed that until you pointed it out, I think on an episode of Geek More. And now whenever I go back and I watch it, I geek out so hard about the fact that he has the different masks ever since you pointed that out.
There's a lot of depth to that movie. And I think there can be in this one too, because notice what he gets creepy about at the end, right? I mean, he's talking about how, like, you love it.
You love it. Yeah.
You want it. Like he is totally convincing her to have sex with him.
Yes.
And there's depth there of a character that, like you said, was probably sexually abused himself by someone and was told you want it. Like there's a lot going on under the surface here, and the actor Mike Villa, thank you. Yeah, he definitely was a method guy. He would refuse to talk to the actresses until he killed them.
Okay.
After he would kill them, after the scene was shot where he killed them, he would talk to them all day. But like he wouldn't even have lunch with them. He would separate himself totally. So like he never had a relationship at all with Michelle Michaels or with Robin Style. Never. Because he never got to kill them. They killed him.
Oh yeah, good call.
So like these are the little things where like he took the role seriously, but he also understood the kind of movie that he was making, where there needed to be some camp there. And I think that the fact that he has a very average height and build and face, like there's nothing remarkable about him. And I think that that's, again, purposeful, the same way that it is with Mr. Content, where it's like, okay, he's just a dude. He's a guy. And what's dangerous about him? His tool. And the fact that he doesn't use his tool with discretion. And I think that there's
it's perfect. It's just when you say it out loud.
Yeah, and that's exactly what this movie's about. I think he understood that. I don't put him anywhere near some of these other, not the A-listers, but like we were talking about last week, I put the Miner from my My Bloody Valentine, and I put the Prowler up there. I don't put him up there, but I think that he's fun for this movie, and I think that he's memorable enough. I think that he's the kind of guy where when I start thinking about slashers, I will think about him. he is one of the ones that's going to come to my mind. Not first, but certainly not last. And for whatever it's worth, he does have an action figure.
Of course he
So
does.
someone thought that he would sell well enough to make a limited release action figure that I wish I had.
I gotta look for that.
And there's, you know, there's also the element of how meticulous he is about what he's doing. Like, yes, the kills are quick, but then taking the time to put the bodies in the trunk so that they're not just piling up and giving him away. The fact that he takes the pizza guy and pushes the pizza guy down into the basement so he can hide under the blanket, that's great. And it's the type of thing that, were this a different movie, you don't see the killer set that up. You just get the jump scare of the killer sitting up from underneath the blanket and then going at him. But you get to watch him do that because we've got Courtney hiding under the couch. And so it's not an omniscient look into what he's doing. We have a character who is privy to that information, so we're allowed to be. But that element of thinking, shoving the girl in the fridge so she's not just there. There's a comedic element to that, but also we've seen that this guy doesn't just leave the bodies around. He puts them away. He keeps them on their toes. You never know where he is because you don't know where the last person he killed was. And so there is a method to his madness, as it were, in what he's doing. And I think that for the 3-4 lines that we got out of this guy and the little bit of acting that we had there, I do think he established himself as being somebody very memorable.
Yeah.
And so we've talked to the slasher, we've talked to characters, and now we got to put these two things together in what slashers always come down to. And we got to talk boobs and blood. And this is a movie that delivers on both of those in ways that matter and in ways that don't. Ralph, you've got a different color in your notes.
For
boobs. So take us into it, man.
I am ready for this section. There we go. Yeah.
Let's go. Show us the skin, Ralph.
I love this.
This movie really comes out of the gate fast. I mean, we see the first boobs 2 minutes in, almost 1 minute something.
Yeah, two minutes, 3 seconds by the time I picked up the remote and paused for a timestamp.
It was great.
For the timestamp.
It makes sense. Okay, she woke up. Is it gratuitous? Yes. Bam. And you're like, and then there's a first kill 6 minutes in. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be awesome.
Right.
We're in for it. And then the shower scene, bam, 1:46 after that. So it's like, wow, 7 minutes and 46 seconds. We've seen boob, shower, and a kill. So that's why I think maybe I was like, yay. And then it really, I think the 40-minute mark is where it hits, where it goes to die. But there's a lot of nudity up front.
Like, they really front loaded the nudity.
By the 43-minute mark, that's when we see the last boob. When it's the jerk boyfriend and Diane, is it?
Yeah.
Yes.
And we just see a little flash, whatever, because nobody wears a bra. I guess
it was close up though. That boob was large and in charge.
It was, yeah. Especially if you're watching on like a big screen TV.
Yeah.
You gotta draw your blinds, folks. Otherwise your neighbors are gonna be thinking you're watching dirty movies.
Again, I thought it was good and fast out of the gate, but then my complaint was there is no sex scene, really, none.
No,
and there's no, and it's gratuitous, but it's kind of weird. Like that shower scene was just weird. It wasn't pleasurable. It wasn't like Porky's gratuitous, but it was just like the camera is straight on the butt. What is that? And then
that was
to another butt. It's like, and then it goes up. It's like, what the hell?
I did have to make myself laugh at the gratuitous butt shot because, like Dave said, it did get uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Like there's an element to watching a shower scene where you watch and you're like, all right, cool, a bunch of naked girls hanging out. But then when it happens like that, and you're like, now I'm getting uncomfortable. Like now I feel like I'm feeling creepy now. Like I didn't want to just stare at the one girl's butt. I was just trying to enjoy the environment of having this many naked girls around. Once you really focus on the one thing like that, it took the voyeuristic pleasure out of watching a bunch of girls shower, which was awkward because normally, a girl shower scene, rules, right? Like, and
Porky
in that,
taught us as much.
yes. And in that moment, it was like, especially because there wasn't like a playful element to it. They're like, yeah, great shot, and it's just like this is what it's just really like there. But now I'm gonna make you uncomfortable, and it was like I said, I did have to make myself laugh and make a note about how gratuitous it was because it got uncomfortable right there.
And I'm upset that we saw Jackie in a 90 and she was never nude. No toplessness from Jackie. I mean, I really like that character.
Yeah.
Because towards the end, even when the pizza guy's dead, she's like, hey, man, I'm hungry.
That is one of my favorite parts of this movie. She's like, eating makes me feel better. And then she takes a bite. She goes, look, I'm feeling better already.
Yeah. Just using the dead guy as a table. Like, so good.
I like her.
What a fantastic character. Yeah, she really is.
And she makes it out towards the end, and she opens the door just because she thinks the other girl's there. It's not like a stupid, why did she open the door? I mean, she had rung the bell, and then bam.
Yeah.
So, do I jump into blood too, or stick with blood?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, it's the whole category, man.
Then I mean, there's the kill count is fantastic, and they do it bogs down, but then it really picks up at the end. But then we don't see anything, and I know there's budgetary constraints, but come on, man. There's 11 kills. We barely see it. And it's not like a movie where like 7, where we're not seeing it because you want, the mind to like go to that dark place and you want to imagine it. It's just, they're not good kills. And again, here we go. I should have put $1 in a jar every time I mention Prowler, but I mean, those are the fantastic kills. Yeah. The best kills are, and in 1981, wow. And this one doesn't, and then he keeps slashing people with the drill. Dude, drill him. Don't slash him. Get in there and like just make it messy. I don't know. I didn't like that.
I don't think he's had an awful lot of experience
with
drilling people before. That could be commentary as well, where he doesn't know how to use this tool.
I really love the first kill is one of my favorites.
Oh, Dave.
True, because it's the phone girl's drill. Oh. Yeah, it's not even his drill.
No, the idea that he's just got this tool that he just happens to have, and he doesn't know how to use it. So he's just slinging that thing, right? Yeah. And just whatever it hits, it becomes a victim.
Like that motion.
Oh shit, Dave! That's goddamn. I love doing this show with you so goddamn much.
Thank you.
That is.
I love doing the show with me too.
Yeah, but no. To your point,
I want a one kill where you really go in and it's just guts and like twirling and like that's what I want, and we didn't get that with the coach. He slashes her and the guts come out, but there was never. I mean, the two good kills are the head chopping off and the hand, which is fantastic. But I needed more guts, especially if you're killing people.
Yeah, to that point, that is I've got to knock this movie for that exact thing, which is one of the things that I had to knock My Bloody Valentine for, which is there's potential for so many good kills here. And yes, again, like you said, we're looking at budgetary concerns, and the special effects taken and showing to both of somebody's eyeballs getting drilled out as opposed to just showing the aftermath of it is a big deal. But there was a lot of potential here for some really cool things, and just getting the aftermath of it is disappointing. It's you get the build up, and then you don't get the release. Then you just have to clean up the mess, right? Like you don't get the fun part in the middle. Yeah. You yada the best part, right? Like like you get all the foreplay, and then you've just got to clean up the mess. And somehow you missed the fun part in the middle. Yes, the coach's guts getting spilled. Okay, you made up for it there a little bit, but yeah, that was my biggest thing with this movie was I wanted one good drill into somebody. Like, let me see you earn the name Driller Killer.
I'm kind of two minds about this, because while I do think that it is light on the gore, and I think it's light on gore, not for the same reason that My Bloody Valentine is, because that's a movie that was chopped to bits by the studio for censorship. I don't think that they shot those scenes because it's very clearly trying to hide the fact that they were working with a shoestring budget. So I think that is a knock against the movie. I don't know that I would go so far as to say that I would say that it needs to be like ultra violent or ultra gory, because then I think that it takes away some of the light viewing pleasure that there is of this movie, because it is a horror comedy.
Right.
I think that when you go like maybe too far in that like gross out direction, you start to have a movie that has an identity crisis, and it does already have an identity crisis. But you start to have a movie where now the people who might normally be laughing at these jokes are not going to be laughing at them because they find the violence and the gore off-putting. So I think that there needs to be a balance that's struck. They definitely cut the balls off this movie with the budget. I would have liked to have seen, like Ralph was saying, I want to see this guy drill someone, and I want to see those guts turning around there. I want to see him pull the drill out, and it's just like tons of viscera. That would be awesome. We don't get it, unfortunately. And to me, the nudity in this movie is gratuitous.
Yeah.
I can't enjoy it. I can't enjoy the nudity in this movie because every time I'm like, well, why the fuck is she getting naked? And I understand. And the thing is, there's one scene where it makes sense, which is when they're changing into their pajamas. But that scene is also there to show us the guys being creepers.
Yeah.
And peeping toms. And so I end up feeling like a peeping tom during that scene, instead of being an omniscient observer who's just like, I'm just watching these characters go about their business. I'm watching the guys be fucking pervs.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel like a perv. And so I can't appreciate the beauty of the female form in that scene, just
and there was plenty of it.
And there was plenty of it. Yeah. I mean, these are gorgeous, gorgeous women, to go back to that character of, was it Jackie? Like, man,
yeah.
Wow. But again, I can't appreciate it. And the same thing happens in the shower scene where like, this is not a tasteful, scene of love or romance. It's gratuitous to the point where I do end up hoping for a fart every time I watch this movie. I want to see the butt cheeks flap, and I want to see like a puff of dust or something like talcum powder or something come out of there so that it breaks the tension, because it's uncomfortable. And I don't know if that was intentional on Jones's part. I kind of hope it is, because if it is, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant way to subvert and fight the over sexualization of women that happens in these kinds of movies by sexualizing them so that they meet the studio standard. It's like fighting fire with fire. So this is, I think, definitely where the movie suffers for me. It's not going to get a perfect score. I still love the movie because despite all that, I do think that there is a high body count. We do see not kill effects really, except for very few of them, but we do see, some gore. We see some blood, and I'm not a saint.
I mean,
so I'll take the boobies.
Yeah, I mean, and they piled it on in the very end. They're like, here's the dude get his hand cut off, and and now he's jumping onto a machete and all of this. It's like, okay, so there is some payoff there. Mm-hmm. So we do start to kind of turn around and see some of that. But yeah, man, I just needed one drill actually going in. I needed to see it.
And you can do it cheap. You can just get pig guts and fake blood and get in there and doing a close-up. It doesn't have to be expensive.
That's really what I don't understand about this movie, is that all the kill scenes, like the kill shots themselves, are extreme close-ups, because they're probably done of like dummy bodies, right? So you do that, like zoom in, and then now you've got a shot of a dummy body, and that's where you see the guts fall out of the coach. You've got that extreme close up of the machete going through the driller killer at the end because it's a dummy body and the machete's going through a dummy. All you have to do is do what George Romero did and buy like one set of guts.
Yeah. And
just keep reusing those guts, and hope that the refrigerator doesn't go out like it did in Day of the Dead. You can definitely do a close-up shot of the drill going in and tearing up the guts. I don't know. I think the Diane kill was the perfect one to do that.
Yeah,
because that's the iconic shot. She's framed between his legs. The drill's dangling right there. It's like, fuck, commit to the kill now. And we don't get it. It's all obscured by darkness, and the lighting is done well to hide it. But this is one where I think with a little bit more money, and maybe not even with that much more money, it was made for $220,000. Put in an extra $50,000 in there, and now you've got yourself something where like that money goes directly to special effects.
And that's still would have made a for 82 though. 200,000 is pretty. That's a lot for 82. I mean, for a small movie, they could have done a lot, or at least just like what you said, Diane. Then just get the drill like a smaller drill, and he's just in there, so it went through the back. We don't have to see it, but just let me see it.
Yeah, there's so few actual kills in this movie, like where you see the kill, that it does end up feeling. And this is something I said to the new Candyman. You give me blue balls because you're setting this thing up, and then just at the moment where there should be payoff, you're gonna cut away.
Right.
It's like the way kung fu movies are made here in the States versus in Hong Kong. You're always pulling away right as the shot of the fist landing is actually hitting. Like no, I want to see that. Don't pull away there. Don't give me the shaky cam. Put a fucking camera on a tripod and let me see these two fuckers kill each other.
Right.
That's what I want. And it's simple, but it does require budget and knowledge, because knowledge costs money. You're not going to get Tom Savini like you did in The Prowler without a little bit of money.
Maybe that's what it is. She's just not a horror director, and she didn't know to go there or that specific. I don't know.
It's possible. I mean, she's also working in the Corman system, and maybe she had to use, whoever Corman told her to use. What I do know is that it feels very Roger Corman. It feels like the corners were cut where he knew they could be cut.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And in the end, it's in the kill, because you can still, by the end of the movie, say, man, look at all these people that died.
Yeah.
And you can still say, oh yeah, man, you saw the guts here, and you saw the thing there, and the eye sockets, but the fucking, whatever. And yeah, in the moment, you don't fucking realize it. But when you stop and you think about it, yeah, you kind of chopped its balls off.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And that leaves us with just rating the thing.
Yeah.
Right. So we haven't discussed
we haven't. We got caught up in technical issues and we forgot to discuss ratings. So Ralph, as the guest, we will throw it to you. Do you have a fun way, a metric that we should rate this movie on out of a possible 5? What?
Oh, out of a possible 5.
Frozen hot dogs.
I don't know.
He does try to fix a shiner with a frozen hot dog.
Yes, that was hilarious. I'm gonna have to defer this one, because since I'm not favorable about this movie, I'm gonna let you guys, whether it's 5 drills or I don't know what.
All right, so frozen hot dogs is a solid choice. I think terrible layups.
Terrible layups. Yeah,
is possible, because they weren't a great varsity basketball team by any stretch of the imagination. So I think terrible layups could possibly be in the mix there. But I mean, I think frozen hot dogs kind of works. I like, because you talked about the identity crisis this movie had. And when you read about the making of it, Rita Mae Brown,
yep.
Was that her name? She wrote this as a parody that they then shot as just a slasher movie. So I guess when you take something like the hot dogs, maybe we're shining a little light on the fact that it is supposed to be a parody. So we can parody our own rating system in that, and show some love to the fact that it was originally written as a parody. I say we go with frozen hot dogs.
All right. So Ralph, out of a possible 5 frozen hot dogs, how many frozen hot dogs do you give this?
Wow.
I don't know how long you're going to go, but you do have the option of going half a frozen hot dog as well.
No, it's not that bad. No, because like I said, there are things like the puzzle pieces were there. I like that the girls are realistic. They're not wimpy girls. I mean, the ending is badass. She really Trish comes out knife wielding, and so there's something there. I believe it or not, I might go higher than you guys think I am. I'm going to give it 2 hot dogs.
Okay. So you got 2 frozen hot dogs.
We didn't talk about the music, but the music was pretty good too.
Yeah,
it's not Goblin, but damn, it was good.
I was going to bring that up as something that it's a definite positive. As I go to rate the score of this was that perfect 80s slasher cheese score, right? Like it was just a dude with a Casio keyboard and a theremin, and he just went to town on it, right? So that stuff was good. I'm gonna go higher than 2. I enjoyed the hell out of this. It definitely is not without its flaws. There are some things here I've enjoyed discussing this, and I've gotten a little bit more out of it. Now, I don't want to go too high though, because there could have been a lot more here. So I'm kind of torn. There's a really nerdy part of me that wants to dock at least half a frozen hot dog because they perpetuated the lie that Jim Jones said, drink the Kool-Aid. It was actually Flavor Aid. But I've been stuck on this today because I don't want to go too high, and I'm trying not to just let the fact that I enjoyed it rate it too much, but I really, really did enjoy it. I think that it's going to be a great one to show at a Halloween party, to just have it in the background. I think I'm going to go 3.5 frozen hot dogs. Like there's just, there is an uncomfortableness to it. I did want a little bit more out of the kills. But I'm gonna stick with 3.5. I'm gonna stick with 3.5 because I did really enjoy it. I would recommend it, but I would recommend it kind of jokingly, just like, this one's a lot of fun. Don't look for too much out of it. But if you're just looking for something mindless, I feel like I can sit comfortably at 3.5 frozen hot dogs.
That's actually where I'm going too. Because as much as I love this movie, there's no possible way that I can say this is a 4. This is 80%.
Right.
And I know that we're only rating movies against itself, but I think this isn't the best version of this movie that there is because of the budget.
Yeah.
And really, like, I want to say 4. I want to say that, like, the gratuitous nudity and the emasculated kills is a star. 1 for each, a half a star for each. And that makes sense to me. But when I say Slumber Party Massacre, 4 frozen hot dogs, something happens in my brain. Says,
you witnessed me doing that live 45 seconds ago when I almost talked myself up to it, and then my internal dialogue was like, I can't say impossible. 4 out loud. Yeah,
it's because it's not a 4. It's really not a 4. In fact, if I could go 3.9, I would be happy. But we don't do decimals here,
right?
So that's for your public library. All right, not for your horror podcasts. Listen, I really like this movie. I have recommended this movie to just about everyone that I know that is a horror fan. This is a great slasher. I will say that. It's not a good slasher, but it is a great slasher, if that makes any sort of sense. This is exactly what you want out of a slasher, except less so.
Okay, fair.
I know that those are contradictory statements, but it's fun. I rewatched this. Listen, I'll tell you this. Happy birthday to me is a much better slasher than this is. It's a much better movie with a great twist ending.
Oh, so good. Goddamn.
It's fantastic. I mean, that movie is awesome. I rewatched this one a hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
Really?
You know, because sometimes, and listen, I'll give you another example. The Terminator is far and away better than Commando. On no planet is Commando as good as Terminator. I watch Commando way more than I watch Terminator.
We didn't talk about there is a Commando moment in this movie. She's in the shed and she's looking for stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
When
awesome.
she goes running with the circular saw,
Yeah,
she's running with it on and doesn't realize it's corded. Comedic gold. It was great.
Yeah.
That
I love that she looks at it. She goes, "Oh,
they did that exact same gag in Idle Hands."
yeah, yeah." You know, there's something about this movie. It is special. It's not good, which is why it's a 3.5. You know, but there's something about it. There's something special about this movie.
What would you say is the best one? You said that it's not the best one in the genre.
Oh no,
What
he's
is
saying
the
it's
best?
not the best version of itself. Like there's
Yeah.
like you were
okay,
saying,
okay.
the puzzle pieces are all there,
Yeah.
but they weren't put together properly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
and
almost went one, but it was with double-digit body count, boob in the first 2 minutes, and music. I had to give it 2.
Fair.
So
Music on KDED radio. Just
oh man. So yeah. There you go. If I have mathed correctly, 2 and 3.5 and a 3.5 divided by 3 gives us 3 stars.
Yep, because it's 9 divided by 3.
And I'm not going to be upset about that. I'm not going to be upset about that. To me,
C's get degrees.
C's get degrees, and so do C cups.
There we go.
And I'll leave it at that.
So there you have it. A Shiver rating of 3 for the original Slumber Party Massacre from 1982 as we continue our summer slasher sensational slasher summer. I forget. I put it together 3 different ways, I'm pretty sure, each time. Alliteration, not my strong suit, but I tried. So Ralph, thank you for coming on and doing this one for us. I'm glad that we made you watch The Prowler and Slumber Party Massacre within a week of each other. That just warms my heart. You got anything going on you need to tell everybody about?
Actually, yeah, I'm introducing movies at the Landmark Theater in Coral Gables every Tuesday. This month is Harrison Ford, and then we wrap that up the next week, and then we move on to Wednesdays with Christopher Nolan. We're doing 4 Christopher Nolan movies, ramping up to Oppenheimer. And I actually talked to that's in a Landmark Theater in Merrick Park, and I talked to the programmer of Gables Cinema because they're doing a midnight movies, and I told him, you got to get The Prowler. You got to get that. And he's like, I've never heard of that movie. And I'm like, oh, you got to get The Prowler. So I'll keep you updated on that. Let's see what happens.
Speaking of Harrison Ford, I would assume you're ramping up to release of Dial of Destiny.
Yes.
Yeah. So Dial of Destiny comes out next week on my birthday, but early birthday present to me, I get to see Raiders of the Lost Ark in the theaters for the first time this coming up Tuesday.
No way.
Or like on the day you're listening to this, probably depending on when we release.
It's fantastic.
So I did that. Was it 2 weeks ago? I think.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I had never seen it in theaters. It is my all-time favorite movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and wow, what an experience to see it in theaters. So I am so happy that, that you're going to be able to do that.
Yes, next Tuesday here at the historic Bama Theater in Tuscaloosa, they're doing, like they did E.T. this week, and didn't go see that because I didn't want to be an emotional wreck for a week. E.T. on the smallest possible screen. E.T. makes me cry. I don't need to see it on the big screen. But yeah, so I'm very excited about that. So awesome. So make sure you check out Ralph and his Harrison Ford and Christopher Nolan movies that he's getting into. Also, make sure you head over to shiverpod.com where you can find links to all of our social media. If you are listening, we go out live every Wednesday at 9/8 Central. You can catch us on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. We are at ShiverPod on all of those things. So make sure you follow us on all those social media. We are the most active on Instagram. It's summer break, so I'm hit and miss with it, but I'm trying to keep it up. We got some great responses from my little Camp Crystal Lake meme that I posted up. So make sure you follow us us. Let us know, because as we are winding down, we've got 2 summer slasher movies left, but then we are going to bring back Summer Fan Fest, and we're going to need some people on. Last summer was overrun with people who wanted us to do the first horror movie that they watched. So if you were not on last summer and you've got a movie that we haven't done yet that was a touchstone in your life, reach out to us on Instagram. Let us know. We'd love to have you on and discuss it.
Absolutely. And also, I'm glad you mentioned E.T., something that I failed to mention earlier. Amy Holden Jones turned down an editing job on E.T. She was going to edit E.T. so that she could direct this movie.
Wow.
Yeah, she said no to Steven Spielberg to say yes to Roger Corman.
She knew what she was after, I guess.
And I thank her for it, because E.T.'s fantastic, and this is Slumber Party Massacre.
There we go. So, Dave, you made your pick. I made my pick. Next week is you. Do you want to tell the people what we're going to be watching for next week?
Yes. So we're going to be moving closer to modern times. So we've kind of we've had a pit stop here at the 80s, and we're moving on. I decided to go with. I was like, man, should we do something like Scream? Like moving to the 90s, or maybe we do like a third or fourth installment in like one of the big franchises.
Right.
And I said, no, I want to keep doing these movies that maybe people haven't heard about, but are fantastic. So we did The Prowler. We did Slumber Party Massacre. We're going to move into 2009 and do a little movie called Laid to Rest. And
which I have never seen.
It is a somewhat modern, right? It's modern enough, I think, take on a classic 80s slasher. And I've only seen it once, but it impressed me so much that I continue to think about it. So I cannot wait to rewatch this and really, kind of start digging into it.
All right. So we'll be doing Laid to Rest next week. Cool. Make sure you tune in. Tell your friends about it. The biggest thing you can do if you love the show is give us a share. Get us out there. Like I said, we've been breaking through the noise. We've had some people reach out to us. Help us break through it even further with a share or a rating. We'd love to have them both.
Absolutely. So on behalf of all of us here at Shiver, fright you very much.